And we have 3 different sports media figures that have released their All-Star ballots, and Angel Reese is nowhere to be seen. She's not involved.
The votes are in and the verdict is brutal. Angel Reese, the player Forbes called a face of the league and who the media crowned a queen, wasn't just snubbed from the All-Star game, she was completely and utterly rejected. She didn't miss the cut by a few votes, she didn't even crack the top 10, landing in a humiliating 13th place. How does one of the most talked about, most marketed athletes on the planet get publicly dismissed by the fans, the media, and even her own peers? The answer exposes a stunning divide between fame and reality, and a story the hype machine desperately tried to hide.
And Angel Reese being the face of the WNBA, you would think Angel Reese is leading the league in votes. Not only is the self-proclaimed Barbie not in the lead, Angel Reese isn't even close to making the top 10.
To understand the depth of this fall, you have to understand the height of the throne she was promised. The coronation of Angel Reese began long before she ever stepped onto a WNBA court. It was forged in the fire of an NCAA championship run where her unapologetic swagger made her a household name. The infamous "you can't see me" gesture directed at Caitlin Clark wasn't just a viral moment, it was the launch of a global brand. Suddenly Reese was more than a basketball player, she was a cultural icon, signing a massive multi-year deal with Reebok to become the face of their basketball division, a role once held by legends like Allen Iverson. Deals with Beats by Dre, PlayStation, and countless fashion brands followed.
And we saw from the popularity voting, remember, it wasn't just Caitlin Clark, it was me too. Angel was 13th in the All-Star voting. Well, everything I've been told, she should have been at least.
Her social media following exploded into the millions, dwarfing that of most WNBA veterans. The Bayou Barbie wasn't just a nickname, it was a carefully constructed business empire. The media ran with this narrative, portraying her and Clark as the two magnetic poles of a new basketball universe destined to drive the league's popularity into the stratosphere. The WNBA itself leaned in, featuring her heavily in league promos. The expectation wasn't just that she would be an all-star, it was that she would be one of its brightest, most essential stars. Anything less seemed impossible.
11.3 points and 11.9 boards and a 38.5% shooter at 6'3".
When the All-Star fan voting results were finally released, the numbers weren't just disappointing, they were a public execution of the media's narrative. Angel Reese finished in 13th place with just over 173,000 votes. To put that into perspective, Caitlin Clark, the other half of the league's supposed new power duo, pulled in over 700,000 votes, more than 4 times Reese's total. The reigning MVP, Aya Wilson, was right behind her with nearly as many, but the humiliation ran deeper. Reese wasn't just behind the superstars, she was also outvoted by a dozen other players, including her own Chicago Sky teammate Marina McBraw and players like Aaliyah Boston and Alyssa Thomas, who, while stars, command a fraction of Reese's media attention.
So it's been very up and down. All of her numbers, she's over 2 points a game behind last year, and basically a little over a rebound a game down, and that's supposed to be her strong.
The gap wasn't a crack, it was a canyon. This wasn't a case of being narrowly beaten out by a seasoned veteran. This was a landslide rejection from the very fans whose attention she was supposed to own. The hype was a deafening roar, but the votes were a barely audible whisper, and as the world tried to make sense of the disconnect, the reasons for her downfall began to surface, one damning statistic at a time.
She, not only was she not second, she was basically 3 times the amount of votes behind Caitlin Clark.
Beneath the glittering surface of magazine covers and viral TikToks, a different story was being written on the court, a story told in the cold hard language of statistics. Voters who looked past the headline saw a glaring problem that couldn't be ignored. Angel Reese was shooting below 40% from the field for a 6'3" forward who makes her living in the paint. That number is more than an issue, it's a fatal flaw. It signals inefficiency and empty possessions for her team. For context, elite forwards in the WNBA consistently shoot closer to 50%.
The same Angel Reese who has been begging, and I mean begging, people on social media to vote for her? Angel Reese, number 13 on the list, 173,000 votes.
Furthermore, her turnover rate was among the highest for starting forwards in the league, often negating the positive impact of her impressive rebounding in a league filled with hyper-efficient forwards like Alyssa Thomas and Breanna Stewart. Reese's production simply didn't meet the All-Star standard. Her numbers didn't just fail to impress, they actively hurt her case. The story the statistics told was one the hype couldn't spin. The in-court performance was not just failing to match the superstar marketing, it was actively contradicting it.
A potential reserve, who would it be? Gabby Williams and Brittany Sykes. So Angel Reese couldn't even squeeze into a reserve spot. And now Megan Hall of USA Today, she left Angel Reese off her All-Star ballot.
But the story takes an even sharper, more dramatic turn. You might expect the media, the very architects of her fame, to circle the wagons and defend their chosen star. Instead, they delivered the most cutting blow of all. As official All-Star ballots from prominent writers were revealed, a shocking pattern emerged. Megan L. Hall of USA Today, an outlet that had published glowing pieces about Reese's impact, left her off her ballot entirely. The writers at Sports Illustrated, who had just featured her in their coveted swimsuit issue, did the same.
And the front court players, Boston, Nafisi Collier, Nika, Satu Sabali, Breanna Stewart, and Asia Wilson. All right. And down here, Boston, Jonquel Jones, Alyssa Thomas. No.
The gatekeepers of the sport, the very experts who had helped build the myth of Angel Reese, were now the ones to publicly and brutally dismantle it. Their ballots were a quiet confession. They had sold the world a story that they themselves no longer believed. The betrayal was silent but absolute, and it confirmed that the doubts weren't just among fans but had spread deep within the media machine itself. This probably means she will not be a starter in the All-Star game, which would make sense because Angel Reese shouldn't be a starter for a regular season game. As the voting window was closing with the writing already on the wall, Reese took to social media. She directly asked her millions of followers to go and cast their votes for her. On the surface, it's a standard move in the modern age of athlete self-promotion, but
probably means she will not be a starter in the All-Star game, which would make sense because Angel Reese shouldn't be a starter for a regular season.
The campaign inadvertently exposed the weakness at the core of her fame. It proved that her massive online following, while impressive, was a mile wide and an inch deep. These weren't dedicated WNBA fans willing to cast a vote. They were passive followers who engaged with the drama but not the sport. The campaign that was meant to save her only succeeded in highlighting that the
is number 6, which I thought was rather surprising. 3 months ago, Paige Bueckers was the only star in women's basketball not named Caitlin Clark. She entered the WNBA dump with a massive amount of mainstream notoriety. But as soon as she put on the hard hat, as soon as she was sized for the steel-toed boots, the second she took off the UConn jersey and exchanged it for the Dallas Wankers, Paige Bueckers seems to have disappeared.
And followers on social media, along with missed layups and a complete lack of athleticism. Perhaps the most telling verdict, however, was the one delivered in complete silence. The All-Star voting process isn't just about fans and media. A crucial 25% of the vote comes from the players themselves. These are the women who share the court with Reese, who battle her in the post, who see the things the cameras miss, and who understand the game on a level no analyst ever could. While their individual ballots are kept secret, the final result spoke volumes. The players, like the media, did not vote her in. Now we know the media jump through.
The mainstream media has been trying to convince us that Angel Reese is a huge star. Some in the media even do investigative journalism and claim that Angel Reese is the face of the WNBA because she leads the league in followers on social media, along with missed layups and a complete lack of athleticism.
At all, this silent judgment from her peers hints at a deeper truth about the league. Respect in the WNBA is not given, it's earned through consistency, efficiency, and a professionalism that has nothing to do with Instagram followers or endorsement deals. Her on-court antics and clashes, celebrated by some as passion, were clearly viewed differently inside the locker rooms. The verdict from her peers was in, and it was just as decisive as the one from the fans. Still don't understand.
Now, we know the media jumped through hoops, gymnastics, mental gymnastics. I mean, however you try to put it, they tried to raise up Angel Reese last year as being, of course, she's running neck and neck with Caitlin Clark for the Rookie of the Year. Except that wasn't accurate at all.
Angel Reese's brand was largely built on being the villain of women's basketball. She embraced the role of the aggressor, the trash talker, the unapologetic heel. This persona generated endless headlines and fueled social media debates, making her a must-see personality. But what makes a great reality TV character doesn't always make a respected all-star. Her on-court actions often cross the line from competitive to controversial. People are catching on, folks. People are catching on.
Still don't understand how she could be that tall and shoot that terrible from the field. I really don't understand.
Flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark. The physical altercation with Alyssa Thomas and her league-leading number of technical fouls created a reputation. While this drama attracted casual viewers, it likely alienated the dedicated fans, media, voters, and most importantly her fellow players. The very edge that made her famous became a double-edged sword. It proved that while controversy can build a brand, it can't build a coalition of voters.
People are catching on, folks. People are catching on. Her fans can't defend the play anymore. And I guess members of the media are starting to give
WNBA All-Star game. They're not on her. These ballots. The All-Star snub wasn't just a story about Angel Reese. It was a referendum on what the WNBA and its audience now value most. The contrast with Caitlin Clark's journey is impossible to ignore. Clark faced even more intense pressure and scrutiny, yet she responded not with persona but with performance. Despite her team struggles, she put up historic numbers in points and assists, breaking records nearly every week.
Understanding, from what we understood, she was going to be among the players, right? That's what the media has been trying to tell us, except the media is finally telling you, this is 3 members of the media, 2 from SI, 1 from USA Today, and they are saying she is not among the starters, in their opinion, in the WNBA All-Star game. They're not on these ballots.
They've caught on, there's no doubt about it. Her production was so undeniable that it silenced any discussion about her not being an all-star. The league sent a clear, powerful message in this new high-stakes era of women's basketball. Hype gets you in the door, but only elite performance earns you a seat at the table. This wasn't just a Reese Clark issue. Other hyped rookies like Paige Buchers also failed to crack the top tier of voting, reinforcing this new league-wide law: the days of coasting on reputation.
I mean, we got to remember, they may put Angel Reese on their backs and try to carry her across the finish line, for crying out loud. But my goodness, what a difference. What a difference in the media from this time last year. People are finally catching on. Basketball fans, actual basketball fans that know anything about basketball, they've caught on. There's no doubt about it.
In the end, Angel Reese's All-Star snub wasn't about one single failure. It was the result of a perfect storm where a media-driven narrative crashed against the hard, unforgiving shores of reality. The hype promised a queen, but the stats revealed a rookie still finding her way. The media that built her up were the first to walk away, and the villain persona that made her famous ultimately contributed to her rejection. Now Angel Reese stands at a monumental crossroads. Is this crushing public rejection the ultimate fire she needs to forge her talent, silence the doubters, and become the true superstar she was prophesied to be? Or was this snub a fatal crack in the foundation, revealing that the Bayou Barbie was a hollow brand whose fame had finally and irrevocably outrun her performance on the court? The answer will define not just her career but the very future of what it means to be a star in the modern.
Actual basketball fans that know anything about basketball, they've caught on. There's no doubt about it.